Hello, everyone. It's
Hello.
Top speaking. I've been training race horses, event horses, trek horses for quite a long time. So I have a fairly good idea of what is required, especially as I do some of the vet check, health checks as well now. So what you need to take into account is when you're trying to work out the amount and the type of work that you need to do to get your horse fit, you have to take into consideration the breed and the build of the horse, the age of the horse, the type of work and the lifestyle that the horse has encountered up until this time, your own circumstances, your work, your life balance, where you live, how your horses are kept, and your riding area and facilities that are available to you, and the off-road riding that you have. Are there any questions concerning that at the moment?
No.
No, Top,
No?
thank you.
Lovely. Okay. So what we try to do is we're obviously, even for TREC, you are trying to condition the horse so that it's fit, healthy, can cope with the level that you're competing at. And we want to allow the horse to become fit over a period of time. So to start them off, and we call it interval training, or that's what my old-fashioned way of calling it is. So a lot of the time you're working the horse aerobically, sometimes you're working them anaerobically. Now, aerobic is when it's free oxygen that comes out of the air, which allows your horse to carry on walking or carry on in a nice steady trot. A very slow canter would be aerobic. Anaerobic will create lactate. Excuse me. But you're using the oxygen from the muscles, which is what causes the lactate, but it will promote better strength, speed, and power. So first of all, when you're getting your horse fit, you start them off by walking. And I am hoping that when you're doing this walk exercise, that your horse is forward off the leg so that you don't have this issue of you becoming, excuse me, knackered and the horse not. It's just lazy. So you want to start off long, slow distances, and the goal is to build up that extra stamina for riding the longer distances, and you're doing it slowly. So physically and psychologically, we're conditioning the legs and tendons, we're building muscles, and we're making, or hoping, we're making the horse calm and obedient. And again, we go back to this, the breed of horse, the type of work it's had before, because we have ex-race horses, they can be a bit scatty. We have all sorts. And so we want the horse to be walking with purpose and not lag. It's got to learn to walk properly and not jog. And he's got to walk on a loose rein, preferably with his head down and his neck extended, so that his back will start to swing freely. And that's going to develop his back muscles, which again comes into the form later on of saddle fittings. Again, for a lot of you, it's the different terrains. What we'd like is rough terrain, stony tracks, off-road bridleways, moorland, field margins, and even the road for limited distances. So that's your walking, and also the uphill, which I did forget to say about. Again, that builds the really strong muscle. And you'll see what I mean by that. If you took a photograph of its quarters when you first start, and then even a month later, if you've got a horse that's walking and stretching over the back in an active walk, whether it's uphill, downhill, on the flat, on the rough, on grass, you will see a difference in a month's time. Then you start to add into the equation the trot work. And what we always used to do here, even with the race horses, they would start off by walk for a minute, trot for a minute. Then you'd get up to walk for a minute, trot for 2 minutes. You do 2 minutes walk, 3 minutes trot. And again, it depends on the horse. The other thing, whilst they're walking and trotting now, and this will take you up to about 6 weeks of work on a regular basis, or hopefully a regular basis, is that if you haven't got time to hack out or put in that extra work, you can lunge them only in walk and trot, but obviously for a lot shorter time. 25 minutes, probably max, just changing the gait, walk, trot. And again, when we lunge the horses, we do it by 1 circle of walk, 2 circles of trot, 2 circles of walk, 3 circles of trot, that type of thing. So does everybody understand that concept at the moment? We all saying yes?
Yes. Can you give us an idea of how much work a horse might need to get from not being very fit up to the standard you're talking about after 6 weeks, please, Bob?
Yeah. We start all our horses off. We're very fortunate of where we live that there are set routes that give us different time lengths. We start horses off with just maybe half an hour. That's a horse that maybe hasn't been ridden or worked for 4 or 5 months maybe. So if a horse has been off work, my horse has been off work obviously since, oh my God, before New Zealand. That wasn't me. And he's just started coming back into work. So he starts off with half an hour, but physically he keeps himself fairly fit, even out in the field, playing with the other horses. So he's not fat horse.
Mm.
He just keeps working himself comfortably. So start off with half an hour. By the end of a month, you'd be doing at least an hour. I keep getting this ding-dong on my phone. Is that okay?
Yeah, just ignore it. I think it's
right,
people
okay.
who are joining. That's fine.
And then by 6 to 8 weeks, we start developing the canter work. And again, there are times, dependent where our TREC comp is, we can have some quite fast speeds. So we want to work the horse on occasion anaerobically, because that's really going to develop his strength, his stamina, as you can imagine, like the race horses do, steeplechasers, not hurdlers and flat horses. And after about 6-8 weeks, you start developing the canter work, but then most folks go, canter, 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 yeah, that's fine. We want the horse almost, on occasion, having a bit of a sprint so that you are developing their lung capacity to be sustainable if you're doing and we have had 12K previously, not very often, but you do get the 12K, and those horses will be working anaerobically. So that,
on the 12, it's Julia, on the 12K, would you say that you'd only kind of get that on a level 3, level 4? I kind of certainly wouldn't expect it on a level 1 or level 2. What do you think?
Mine was on a level 2.
Right. Okay.
But interestingly, it was up a set of gallops.
Uh-huh.
And it was 12K. And I'm like, well, I knew, obviously, because at that time I was still doing racehorses here as well. So I knew roughly what sort of speed I'd have to be doing. And that was, if I said, and hopefully most of the people that are on the chat tonight would understand the difference between a working trot and a medium trot, or a working canter and a medium canter. Your medium canters will give you your anaerobic strengthening exercise. So you're producing a lot less lactate in the blood. Sorry, in the muscles, not in the blood. So you need to be able to prepare that horse. You shouldn't be having to kick, kick, kick. It should be obedient to the aids. And if you say go, it goes. If it doesn't, you have to teach it, because we don't want the riders knackered. And I often see that at vet checks and health checks, or when by the time you've come home at the end of the day, you know, the riders are shattered, and they shouldn't be. Guaranteed they're on horses that are either they blow their brains or they don't work well enough off the leg anyway. So again, just reiterating, you know, hills will give you more intensive work than flat ground. So always give them that breathing space afterwards so that their heart rate hopefully comes back down to, I don't say normal, but below the 64, which is what they're looking at TREC level, any TREC level. So if you're doing your canter work, if you've got a heart monitor, use it. And that's what I did quite often when I was training TREC riders. I used a heart monitor. Nowadays, I just use a stethoscope and a watch just to check how quickly they recover from faster work, be it in the trot or in the canter. The one thing that really is essential is that they do have a rest day. Quite often, some horses don't have a rest day, or maybe they have too many rest days. So a rest day really is essential, at least once a week. And if they don't feel right when you're riding them out again the next time, just check that your feed regime is correct. And that's a real huge thing to work on. And that also, you know, take the temperature. How many people have a thermometer for their horse? Job to know. You should have, and you should check their temperature. You should be able to check their pulse and their heart rate. Heart rate is more difficult if you haven't got a stethoscope, obviously, or a heart monitor. So you can build up your trot and your canter work so that you could be cantering for 4 or 5 minutes at a time. And in that 4 or 5 minutes, give them a bit of a blowout where they are working in medium or extended canter. It doesn't need to be a gallop. Gallop is not necessary for TREC, but it will, by giving them the medium or the extended canters and trots, you will expand their heart and their lungs so that they last for much longer without getting tired. And at the end of the day, you are possibly looking at doing maybe 20K, 30K, 2-3 times a week. You work that out on a map, and actually it takes some doing. But if you've got the fitness work in there, it doesn't matter if you don't do that 20, 30 kilometers 2-3 times a week, because the horse will be strong enough from the shorter distances, and they will last for that 30K, no problem, or your 40K going up to level 4s. And for, you know, I'm saying novice riders, pleasure riders, the slightly less more experienced riders, it really is a great achievement to be able to complete those distances in the right amount of times, if you can read your maps well. And if you're an experienced rider on a novice horse, it's still a great achievement if you've bought a young horse to start off with. It will take them a while to get really fit, but you've got to be very careful that your fitness work is going in the right manner. So the principles of getting your horse fit, you build the horse up gradually to maximum work. That maximum work, a couple of times a week. The rest of it is maintenance work. So the other 2 off 6, the other 4 days, because you have a rest day as well, that other 4 days is your walk, your trot, the canter work in short quantities. And if you have a major session, make sure it is followed by a day of recovery where it's an easy hack out. 10, 12 kilometers is plenty. And I tend to use the roads for that, one has to say, and I'm fortunate. Traffic around me, yeah, we have a reasonable amount of traffic. It's a lot of farm traffic, but our horses are pretty good, so that does help. As you train faster and harder, you obviously need to put in more recovery days. And whilst you're just walking, obviously no days for recovery are needed. But again, schooling your horse. So you don't have to hack every day. You can lunge one day, hack, maybe a bit of fast work when your horse is up near the top end of being fit, and a day of schooling. And again, you're schooling half an hour to 3/4 an hour in an arena, plenty. That horse will be fit enough to cope. So you're trying to remember the principle of improvement is based on, if you like, stressing the horse that little bit where he's working anaerobically and how long the recovery is immediately after. And yeah, as I say, no more than 2 hard workouts per week and 1 rest day per week. Yeah, if you're doing 2 hard works where you're like, oh, I'm going to gallop up that bridle path and I'm going to do it the next day as well, don't. Give them a recovery day where it's just hacking, lunging, schooling, and then our fast work, we used to use the gallops twice a week. The rest of it, we were either lunging, schooling, hacking. Give them that variety as well. And if you've got hills, make use of them. So I haven't gone into the feeding of the horse. But the one thing I always found, especially for our top dressage horses, because we've got those silly buggers as well, is that, where did I put it? There it is. I did write it down just in case anybody asked. Your feeding, if they're in work, so many people don't do it, they don't get their horses weighed. If they're in hard work, 2.5% of their body weight should be fed back to them. It's more than you think. If they're just on maintenance, so a level 1 would just about get away with maintenance, which is about 2% of their body weight. A lot of the horses will be fed at grass. So your nutritional quality on your grass is going to be up in the spring and the summer. And if you think that like 1 acre of ground should, if it's kept well, the grass I'm talking about, it should feed 3 to 4 horses. But in the wintertime, it drops down to 1 horse per acre. Hay is low energy. And I'm not going to go into megajoules per kilo. That I think I'd blow your brains, to be quite honest. Alfalfa's got a higher energy. Cereal grains are higher again. But you almost want, and I found this with TREC for myself on a Welsh park bred, we put her on a slow release energy. And she would go for hours and hours and hours. And I had a 27-year-old that I was competing at level 3, and he was on a slow release, and I spent 12 hours out on Cannock Chase at the One Championships, and he came in and said, do you know what, I'm not going to tie up to the trailer, I'm going to piss off. And piss off he did, all the way around the cross-country course. He loved it. Feed in moderation. Preferably small, frequent feeds rather than one huge one, because it won't do them any good. if you're going to go, and obviously you will, concentrate feeds, your fibre feeds are much better for energy. You can also use sugar beet pulp, oils, very good for slow release energy. It will enhance body condition if you're not putting the exercise into the horse. But you will have a much less excitable behaviour. Are you still there? Oh, it's my daughter sending me a message. It's all right.
Yeah, we're still here.
Yeah, we're still here.
So if anybody wants to sort of know a bit more about feeding, I'll certainly try and answer it for you. Not a problem. Now, I think probably before we do like the vet checks, which won't take me very long, are there any questions about the fitness work?
I've got a question, Tot.
Yeah.
It's Joe speaking. Yeah, it's basically I'm really stuck for anywhere to do some good canter work unless I get in a trailer and go somewhere. But we can go on the arena, and I was thinking to get some anaerobic work. Would it be a good idea to put some cross poles up and canter around and jump as well? Would that actually get the anaerobic work up?
No. Short answer to that one, Joe. You are better off. Is this Joe from Hereford Way?
Yeah, from Winnell.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, you've got a fabulous arena there, Joe.
Yes.
So you ride a working canter around the short side.
Right.
And as you come off the corner,
Yep.
you send that horse forward into a medium or an extended canter.
Okay.
Collect round the next short side and do another medium extended down the next long side.
Okay. So just
all
work.
right.
Yeah.
And
So, but on that one then, if we
get your ass over the saddle.
if we're visualizing Joe's arena, because we don't know what Joe's arena's like, how big is your arena, Joe? Sounds like you've got a big one.
I mean, I'm not sure on the exact measurements, but I would say it's
30
somewhere.
meters. It's 30 meters by, I think it's 65.
Yeah.
It's quite big.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a nice big arena.
So that makes sense.
Nice
because you've got a big arena, because in a normal sort of dressage, 20 by 40 or 60 by 20, you're not going to be able to get the speed up that you need to get the anaerobic. Yeah.
Yes, you can. But it has to be a balanced canter that is ground covering. And this is where the schooling side comes in, because that will help you greatly if you can't get to these bridle paths, whatever, without having to load up to go somewhere. And yeah, obviously I know Winnell well, because obviously I teach over there a fair bit, or did until I bought their horse off them. So it is having the horse balanced enough, making sure that when you want to do your medium or extended canters, even in a 40-meter arena, out of the saddle, because that allows the horse's hind legs to step under better, and it will give you the bigger stride without going quicker. Now, that's the subtle difference, is that the canter strides should not get quicker, they should get bigger, but with the same rhythm. And that's what's going to get your horse working really, really well. Does that answer your question, Joe?
Yeah, that's fine. Yes, that does answer my question. I was just trying to think of a way of making it harder work because not having, well, we've got hardly any hills, and at the moment there's just nowhere to go for a canter unless I go up
No,
to the
you're
gap.
slightly flooded everywhere around there anyway. So yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's a bit of a disaster, but he's pretty fit always. I don't allow him to drop off, but obviously coming up to, you know, the summer when we get ready for doing the treks, and I know that sometimes we get some real hills and things like that, I need to do a little bit more to help him, especially when we get hot weather. And I guess that was my other question regarding fitness, you know, the heat.
Do you know, the other question for you would be, are you allowed to ride through Aikenbury Woods?
I'm
I
not
don't know
sure.
whether there's bridle paths at Aikenbury or not, because
Well,
you've got some lovely hills through those woodlands up there.
I'm not sure which Aikenbury is, but I don't think so, Todd. I think,
Top of the Callow.
no, I don't think that's anywhere we can go as far as I know, but I will check that. I think we're just about nowhere unless I get in the, I mean, I'd have to go in a box anyway, but I might be able to go over to Halfwoods or places like that. But there are gallops. I might
Is
just,
another.
yeah. That's,
So
Yeah.
I guess one of the tips then, Tot, is with the weather that we've got, and I know we've got Lisa, who's not in the UK, but the weather that we've got at the moment, it might be worth thinking about hiring the gallops. There are various places where you can hire the gallops to get that
Yeah,
fast
you see,
working.
I'm very fortunate. I've got the gallops quarter of a mile away. We hack our horses over, we use the gallops, and it's like £10, and you can go up as many times as you like. And if you were using gallops like we've got, which has got a nice slope to it, maybe the first 3-4 times you use them, you would just canter up, and your horse would struggle. But you could then give them a pipe opener. So you canter the first third, pipe opener, canter the last third, trot to the very finish, so that you're starting to remove the lactate out of their muscles that you've created, because you've got to put the energy back in the muscle, or the oxygen, I should say, not the energy. So you exchange the poison and put the oxygen back in. That's where your trotting and walking always comes in after you've had what I call fast work. Otherwise, your horses are going to get set fast. And I'm sure most of us have heard of that. But yeah,
is that the same as tying up, Top?
Tying up, yeah, set fast, tying up, same thing. Yeah. It's amazing, different areas, what we call things. But yeah, I always call it set fast, or as you said, tying up, exactly the same thing. And that is, it's lactose that has gone into the muscle because we've drawn the oxygen out when we're doing the fast work. When you finish your fast work, you trot for a bit, then think of how the race horses are. When they finish a race, they will trot, 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 trot. They walk them then once the leaders have got back hold of them. They'll walk into the parade ring, or hopefully if they've been placed. If they haven't been placed, they are taken back out by the stables or the lorry park, and they are walked and walked and walked until their heart rates are virtually back to normal. Okay. Now, somebody commented about very hot weather. Who was that?
That was me again, Tot, because we had some real scorchers, especially at Lincoln this year. If you remember, that's Joe, sorry.
Yeah. And again, for me, Yeah, a lot of riders were going wrong, so they were doing longer distances. And this is why you need your horses fit. Or fitter than maybe they're needed for that particular level. Because you have a hot day, if that horse hasn't been kept hydrated, you are going to struggle. If you came into a vet check, which I had 2 or 3 horses at Lincoln, and I made them stand under a hose pipe for nearly 10 minutes before I'd take their heart rate, because they were way, way over the top. The fitter your horse is, the more it can cope with hot weather. One of the reasons why we carry water, or hopefully there is water at checkpoints or en route, and wash your horses down. You know, carry a sponge in your bag. Wash those horses down and don't scrape the water off. Let the water evaporate from the body heat of the horse. And that is something that has really come to the fore in the last 3 or 4 years about doing that. And the interesting thing is we've always done it here for probably 15 years plus. If our horses have worked really hard and they finish working and we've brought them into the yard and they're still quite sweaty, we hose them down cold water and we let them drip dry, as I call it. Far, far better for them. Can I help you any other way with heat? Not having your horses overweight, very definitely. Neither do you want a skinny horse, because a skinny horse will suffer just as bad from dehydration as the fat one. And I see so many fat horses at TREC levels. Not normally at level 3 and 4, but certainly level 1s and 2s. And it is a case of, you know, if I can, I will help them to ensure that their horses recover and they'll know better next time. And I will give anybody tips, whatever, to help them with that side of it. Because I've had a horse dehydrate and it was being transported from here to Ireland, funnily enough, for the 3-day event over there. I'll think of the name of it in a minute. And she rang me from Ireland and I trained her and I said, it's dehydrated, get a vet. And it was on a drip for 3 days because the dehydration, and that was just transporting it. It's frightening.
That's great. That's great, Tot. So just keeping an eye on the time, if nobody's got any more questions, do you want to touch on the health checks?
The vet.
I believe the health checks have replaced the vet checks on the
for the majority, yeah. It's only for the GB champs that they must have a vet. All the others can be health checked. Funnily enough, I remembered something tonight before I joined in. When you are, well, you ensure the horse has a bridle on for the trot up, because quite often it's very windy and some of these horses can be a bit flighty. So you do need to ensure that in the trot up, even in a health check, that they trot away and back, or they walk away, they trot back, that they are actually doing it in a straight line. So you teach them to trot in hand and respecting your space. Trot must be active, not slow or quick. That's the hardest part for a lot of people. The head of the horse should be roughly looking forward, not left or right, and the head and neck of the horse should be roughly by your shoulder. We don't want him behind you, because when you're trotting back, we won't be able to see the horse's legs. And the rein or the lead rope, because of course some people ride in a bitless, and that's fine. That is what the horse is used to. So we don't expect you to suddenly put a bit in its mouth to do a vet check, for goodness sake. So your rein should be relaxed or with a very gentle pressure. And you have to teach the horse to do this. So that when you're doing a trot up, and I've seen it even at a lot of the championships, where you've got to chase the horse, they don't want to trot, they don't want to do this, they hang back, and you ask the handlers then, they have to go and repeat it because it's been done incorrectly. If it's been done at the end of the POR, those riders are knackered. They don't want to have to repeat it. So teach your horse to be obedient, where you want them to be, not invading your space, and trotting alongside you in a straight line. So for some horses, carry a schooling whip for your vet check, be it on the Friday, on the Sunday morning. You can't carry no, they've stopped us carrying a schooling whip on the POR, if I remember rightly, haven't they?
Yeah, it's too long. It's
too long. So. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But you can use it for your vet checks. Definitely. And actually, do you know, if I've got any, well, I usually do have actually. There's always a couple in the back of my truck. Do you know, I never think to pull them out to offer them anybody if they need it. I'll remember that next time. Mm-hmm. Right, but now the one thing, I have a big bugbear for guys, so be very aware. Your horse should be clean on both days, and sweat marks should be removed, and the mud. And I have so many horses that have got sweaty girth areas, mud everywhere, and they shouldn't. They should be presented as if you were taking them to a show almost. Not quite, but if you took them show jumping, you wouldn't take them to show jumping muddy. Neither do we want to see them like that when we're doing a health check. If on the POR you have a health check halfway through or somewhere on the POR, it is expected that the saddle will stay on and the health stroke vet check will work around your saddle. GB Champs is done by vets on the Friday and the Sunday. The Saturday can be a health check, and it's a health check for all other competitions. Level 3s and 4s will always include a health check on the POR and or at the end of the POR. Oh, here we go again. Now, the thing that some folks don't get or understand is that we take a heart rate and it must be less than 64 beats per minute. So we do 10 seconds normally on our watch, and we multiply it. How many beats have we heard in a stethoscope in 10 seconds? I do it slightly differently, and I do 15 seconds. 15? Yeah. 15 seconds times 4. And that gives me how many heartbeats there is per minute. If you tried to do it and count every heartbeat for a whole minute, you start to lose track, which is why even vets do either 10 seconds or 15 seconds. Okay. Now, if you come into a vet check, the heart rate will be taken, but you have 5 minutes. You do not have to present your horse straight away. You do have the 5 minutes before you have to have that heart check. If it's not below 64, then you can wait 5 minutes and have it checked again, and you're allowed 3 more from the first check, if you like, for up to half an hour. If we have to take that horse's heart rate at 30 minutes and it's still higher than 64, you're eliminated. And at 1, now was it a G? It was the GBs, I think. Don't think it was the English. Down in Somerset a couple of years ago. And I spun 3 horses. But the hill they had to come up to get to us, and they could not get their heart rates correct after that. And I did spin them. Felt very sad about doing it, I have to be honest. And then you have your lameness exam, which is just your trot up. The only thing that would eliminate them is if there was a very distinct gait irregularity. The other thing on the exam health check is the metabolic and clinical. So metabolic is the dehydration and body condition, wounds and saddle sores. So again, this is where I come in with all TREC horses should have their saddles checked regularly, because they will change if they're becoming very fit. Their back muscles will change shape dramatically, especially if they're working correctly. If they work incorrectly, they will still change, and you will need your saddles checked. I was always very cautious, and I used to use, instead of heavy saddle pads, I used to use a gel pad underneath. And it does help. They're not cheap, one has to say. And there are better saddle pads stroke numbness than a lot of others as well. And I can't think of the name of the ones I'm thinking of now that help to stop saddle sores developing. Because if a horse's back is very sore, again, you will be eliminated. You will not be allowed to ride. Now, especially if that happens on a Sunday, after they've done the POR, how many people in the summertime don't put a rug on their horse? Because that horse has worked hard all day on the Saturday, he will be, and we've all done it ourselves, when we're very tired, we feel the cold. So do horses. Even if it's only a lightweight rug to stop the wind or maybe rain, it helps to keep that horse's muscles just that bit warmer in recovery. Quite often, people bring their horses forward for the vet check stroke health check on the Sunday, and they haven't warmed that horse up before they bring it. And we had this down in Somerset, as I say, it was a couple of years ago. I can't remember whether it was before or after my accident. And I probably had 4 or 5 horses that were presented whose backs were, for me, too sore. So I actually took them away and gave them a bit of physio, stretching exercises, getting them to release those muscles in their back, and then sent them to the vet for them to make the final decision, and they did pass them. So please make sure you know how to get the horse's muscles working. Some people, before the vet check on a Sunday, will ride their horses out for 20 minutes, half an hour, only in walk, but getting them stretching forward and down so they lift those back muscles, release the back muscles, and it makes a huge difference on the vet checks, especially on the Sunday, because that's where quite often, I think Julie would agree, we do have horses that are spun.
Yeah, I must admit, I've done a couple of competitions, haven't I, Tot, helping you with the health checks, and they've certainly been very interesting. Certainly, if you're thinking of going to, anyone's thinking of going to a TREC competition to help, there's lots of different jobs that you could volunteer for, but I certainly found helping with the health check really useful. Okay, so it's coming up to, gosh, time's absolutely flown by. So it's coming up to 9 o'clock. That has been absolutely fascinating and really interesting talk. Have we got any more questions?
Yeah, if there's any more questions from anybody, I'm quite happy to answer them.
Some of you are on mute if you are trying to talk, so you might, if you have got a question, come off mute, or you can pop it in the chat box.
I don't like to keep asking questions, but it was a very, very quick one. You keep going on about heart rate, but for our reference at home to see our recovery, can we use RESPs if we haven't got a heart monitor or a stethoscope to give us an idea how quickly our pony's recovering?
Can you use what?
RESPs, respiration, breaths, watching the horse's sides.
Take their pulse.
Where?
Oh, gosh. There's 2 or 3 places. Usually under the jaw.
Right.
Google it. They will show you where the jugular vein is.
Okay.
That goes under the jaw. There's one in the inside of the front leg. And I've had to use that on occasion with some horses that have got very hairy chins. And you can use the one down on the pastern.
Okay.
Again, that would be my third choice.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Good question, Joe.
Yeah, really good question, Joe. So if you think of anything, as we do after, we finish the call tonight, then either drop me an email or to Tot if you've got Tot's email, but if you drop it to me, I'll pass it on to Tot and she'll get back to you. Or pop it in I think most of you on the call tonight are members of Your Horse is Your Mirror. So you can go onto the Learning Zone and you can ask questions in there. I am going to invite Tot and Helen, who did a guest speaker earlier on in the winter, to join the learning zone so they can answer questions themselves there.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
I was going to say, I don't think I'm on it.
No, I need to give myself 2 actions there to add you into there, because
Okay.
it's kind of yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. Are there any questions from anybody else? No?
Not a question, Top, but just thank you very much. I'm just starting in TREC, and it's been a very huge learning curve for me tonight to know what to do to get my horse fit enough to perhaps do a competition later. So thank you.
One of the easiest things to remember is when you're starting off, make sure your horse is obedient and goes forward off the leg when you say. Not when he says, oh, all right then. That's the hardest part of all.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
And if they go off the leg, you will get them fit. Dead easy. Now, the other thing I didn't say anything about, anybody that's got horses with arthritis, the older horse, rheumatism, or if you want to school them, one of the easiest ways to help them develop the muscles correctly and get their joints back working better without putting a strain on them, use trotting poles. If anybody ever wants to see any diagrams or whatever that are simple enough but good for arthritic-y type horses, just message me or put it on the learning zone and I will get it to you. Not a problem.
Oh, that's a brilliant one, actually, Tot. I think I'll set up a section on pole work exercises for TREC. In fact, I did start setting up a section, believe it or not. You must be able to read my mind, or I can read yours. So yeah, I'll take you up on that offer, and we'll get that up there, because that is really, really, really useful.
Yeah, we've had a horse on that's got arthritis, especially in his 2 hind fetlock joints, not in his hocks, but in his fetlock joints, and he's been out of action for 2 months, and we've got him now. He's doing medium trots, extended trots, balanced canters. He's walking out. He's using his back muscles. And all I did was use trot poles to help him. And it took a week before he started freeing up. And from then on, he's just developed. And he's looking better now than he did 6-7 years ago.
And
so it does work.
Yeah, it's just made me think of a question as well, Tot. So given the bad weather that we've got on the wet ground and it being challenging to get our horses fit, because I think that's going to set us back a little bit this year. So actually introducing pole work, it could be another way to get that extra work, to get that level of fitness without having
it will give you the extra work, and it will also make the horses stretch correctly. And the one thing I will say to everybody that's listening, if you want to use poles, if you put your 1 foot in front of the other for 5 footfalls and just poles on the ground, I'm not talking gymnastic jumping with raised poles and everything else. You only need the poles on the ground. Your horses will start to get fitter and release a lot of the arthritis that some horses suffer with. And I've seen it so often now with all the horses I work on my pole clinics down at King's Equestrian, and the arthritic horses that are coming, and the difference in them is amazing.
Wow, that's a real good golden nugget of information, that Tot. So I will I'll take another action to I'm sure I've got a folder there for pole work for TREC. So I'll get some information from you and put that in the on the Learning Zone. I've also just Googled how to take the pulse, so I will publish that on the Learning Zone, and I will look for some YouTube videos on how to do it. So I'll get that done in the next few days and over the weekend.
Yeah, by all means.
Cool.
I mean, I can send you videos of when we've been doing them down at King's. Some of the exercises that we do, the horses are fine. The riders take one look at the diagram, well, not the diagrams, the plan of the poles, and they're just like, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And actually, the horses are like, yes, we can. But the riders' brains are just like, yeah, right. So we do have some laughs doing pole clinics. So, yeah.
Cool, that's brilliant.
Okay.
So, super duper. So thank you, everyone. Those of you that are not members of the Learning Zone, if you want to get in touch with me, how to get access and what it consists of, then drop me a message through my website. And thank you so much again, Tot, and I'll see you in a few weeks at Dudgley TREC Camp. And for everyone else, we've got another virtual map room next week, I believe. Details are on the Training Zone, free to all members. So yeah, we're all revved up and ready to go for TREC 2020.
Good. Lovely job. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to do this. And we'll see you all soon, hopefully.